Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you for taking the time to join our webinar for today. In the second installment of the Making Waves series, today we will focus our eyes on the reef community watch for coral health. I'm Erin Canto, the Reef World Foundation's program officer for the digital community, and I am so honored to be your host for today. Today's webinar will cover on critical topics such as the fourth Global Coral Bleaching Event that currently ongoing, and we will gain insights from our esteemed guest speakers from the Reef Check Dominican Republic and Reef Check Malaysia, who will share their experiences and expertise in coral bleaching, their monitoring efforts, and we will talk about how green fins can help mitigate local environmental impacts to our reef, and most importantly, how you can play a role in protecting our reefs. But before diving deep into these critical topics, for those who are not familiar with us, we are the Reef World Foundation, a nonprofit organization that aims to inspire and empower people to protect our precious oceans. The Reef World is the leader of the Green Fins Initiative, implemented a partnership with the UN Environment Program, which aims to make sustainable diving and snorkeling a social norm. Greenfins was born 20 years ago and aims to protect and conserve coral reefs through environmentally friendly guidelines that promote sustainable diving and snorkeling businesses in the industry. So Greenfins encourages and empowers businesses of the diving and snorkeling industry to act to reduce the pressures on coral reefs by offering dive and snorkeling companies a practical, low cost, and accessible alternatives to harmful practices such as anchoring, fish feeding, chemical pollution, as well as providing strategic training, support, and resources that they need. So you might be wondering, who is Greenfins? So Greenfins could actually be you. We are a network of dive centers, liveaboards, and snorkeling businesses. We also work with institutions, the national and international government units, industry experts. We also work with diving agencies, organizations, individuals, and dedicated members who commit to protect and conserve coral reefs by following environmental guidelines to promote a sustainable diving and snorkeling industry. So, if you'd like to find out more on how you can join our network, stay tuned at this end of the webinar on how to be involved. So, to kick off our webinar, we have a special welcome message from our Executive Director, Chloe Harvey.
Hi there, everyone. Welcome to this Greenfins webinar, Making Waves, Eyes on the Reef, Community Watch for Coral Health. I welcome you all. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have a really important message as we learn more about the true extent of the fourth Global Bleaching Event and how far-reaching it really is. We now need your help. We really need to get data to understand more about really what's happening on our reefs, how it's bleaching, how it's unfortunately then going on to die or hopefully recover. And we need that data because it's very useful information for us to be able to calibrate or validate prediction models that are being used at the moment to galvanize global action, to pick up the pace, to help protect our coral reefs and the ecosystems and communities that they support. No one knows our reefs better than the diving community. Dive staff who get to dive every day on these reefs really understand them and know them like the back of their hands. And we need to get this information and we need to have that data to be able to understand more about what's really happening. So we really need your help. And through the Greenfins Community Forum, we're going to really rally the support of the Greenfins Network, the dive centres and the passionate individuals behind them to help us to collect this information. And we're going to hear today in this webinar from Ruben over at Reef Check Dominican Republic, who is one of the leading coral reef experts in the world, about why this data is so important and how it can really translate into action to support protection of our coral reefs. So I ask you to get involved and think about how this can perhaps provide you with some unique business opportunities. We know from the surveys that we've done through Greenfin's work that diving consumers are really wanting to get more involved in conservation, and they want to learn more when they're on their holidays. How better to do that than to get involved in some element of coral reef monitoring? There are ways that dive staff can really weave this into their daily dives so that it doesn't have to be an add-on activity that could cost a lot of money. So yeah, think innovatively and think about how this can actually add value to the services that you currently provide, as well as being able to get that data to help to encourage and drive action for coral reef protection. So we look forward to working with you. I hope that you will take something helpful away from today. Please stay in contact. We really like to hear from our members. And we hope that we can help you to start collecting some of this information for us. So enjoy and hopefully see you all soon.
Thank you so much, Chloe. We wish you were here. But again, this is an exciting webinar to learn more about the current status of the fourth global bleaching event we're experiencing right now. And actually, last April 15th, 2024, NOAA, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, in partnership with the International Coral Reef Initiative, confirmed that the world is currently or has been experiencing a global coral bleaching event since early 2023, which started in the Caribbean in the Northern Hemisphere during the summer of 2023, followed by the Southern Hemisphere in the summer of 2003 to 2024. Since then, mass coral bleaching has been confirmed in 67 countries and territories in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans. Closely monitored by NOAA, bleaching level heat stress continues to be extensive across the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Ocean basins. So currently, the most extreme accumulated heat stress, which is bleaching alert level 4 or even higher, is active at reef sites in the west central equatorial Pacific. Coral bleaching is a stress response due to the rising temperatures and so many other factors. So, the current fourth global bleaching event is also known as the GCBE4, on record following the events of 1998, 2010, 2014 to 2017, the 3-year global bleaching event. And this is the second global bleaching event that happened in the last decade or the past 10 years. The previous one, which is the third global coral bleaching event from 2014 to 2017, remains to be the longest, most widespread, and most damaging bleaching event on record, with over 65.7% of the world's coral reefs, as observed via satellite, experiencing bleaching level heat stress. Unfortunately, last May 23, 2024, the current global bleaching event that we're experiencing right now surpassed their last one in extent. The unprecedented nature of the fourth global coral bleaching event is highlighted by NOAA's decision to extend their bleaching alert scale from alert level 4 to alert level 5, indicating near complete coral mortality. So, as of today, 70.7% of coral reefs worldwide had been affected by bleaching level heat stress since the last year. So, what does this mean to us and the industry? Coral bleaching, especially on a wild scale, has significant impacts on economies, livelihoods, and most importantly, our food security. As the world's oceans continues to warm, this can lead to coral mortality, affecting communities that depends on this ecosystem. However, this doesn't necessarily mean that corals will die directly. If the stress causing the bleaching diminishes, corals can recover, allowing reefs to continue providing the essential ecosystem services we all rely on. We are deeply honored today to have two incredible resource speakers who will be speaking in depth about these topics, which leads me to introduce our first speaker for today, all the way from the Dominican Republic, Dr. Ruben Torres, who holds a PhD in marine biology from the University of Miami and a Bachelor of Science in Biology from the Autonomous University of Santo Domingo. He is the regional coordinator of Reef Check International and the founder and president of Reef Check Dominican Republic. As the founder and CEO of Taurus Environmental Consulting or Tech Unlimited, Dr. Torres has established himself as a leader in marine and environmental conservation and sciences in the Dominican Republic and the Greater Caribbean. Dr. Torres is also a member of ICRI and the Global Network of Coral Reef Monitoring. He also serves as a mentor for the Caribbean Marine Protected Areas Management Network under the United Nations Environment Program. In addition to all of these roles, Dr. Torres is a dedicated environmental consultant and a certified PADI master instructor. Contributing significantly to marine conservation efforts, his work spans various aspects of marine biology, from reef conservation to the management of marine protected areas. Dr. Torres leads Greenfin's initiative in the Dominican Republic and is a trained assessor. Hello, Dr. Ruben.
Hello, how are you, Erin? Thank you for
Good.
the introduction.
Thank you so much. So I'll leave the audience to you.
Thank you very much. Hola from Dominican Republic. As Erin was saying, I'm Dr. Ruben Torres, founder of Reef Check Dominican Republic, and I'm going to be covering this important topic of coral bleaching, which, as you heard earlier, for us in the Caribbean, it happened, I would say, late summer, autumn of 2023. And we were very lucky to be in the water and document all these temperature images, bleaching levels before it started around May 2023 and now in 2024, and we're starting to see how this year 2024 has started in temperature wise. As you uh, know very well, coral reef are very important in our tropical regions of the world. Beautiful entities, diving industry is highly supported by diving in these ecosystems, and they have a special characteristic that they are solar power animals. Uh, you can see them that they have various colors, and that color is basically a tiny microscopic algae inside their tissue. But usually, divers and scientists see that corals turn white, especially during the hotter months of the year. And this is because of climate change. Uh, that algae that I was telling you about lives inside the coral tissue. So it's basically a symbiotic relationship where the algae gets a home to live in, but also has to, I guess, pay rent to the coral in terms of energy. Coral uses about 90% of their energy from this symbiotic relationship. When the water gets too hot, hotter than corals can withstand, and that temperature range has been shifting. When I started, my professional career was around 27, 28, 29. Now we're seeing oceans temperatures around 30, 31, 32. And what happens is that this relationship breaks. The algae is expelled from inside the coral, And the coral, just because it's a transparent animal, what we can see is the white skeleton beneath their tissue. So that's why corals turn white. They actually, some people say that they actually look prettier this way, but it's very sad to see a complete reef turn white all of a sudden within a few weeks. The long-term effects from coral bleaching is basically that the sea surface temperature is increasing, and this bring stronger storms and actually more frequent. And I'm going to talk a bit about something that happened yesterday in my island. Also, higher sea surface temperature increases the probability of coral bleaching. Like I was saying, sea level rises and the ocean becomes more acidic. And that's probably a threat that we don't see and we don't probably experience. But this could bring a very catastrophic scenario for coral reefs and any other marine animals that calcify to make their skeleton. We have been studying all these reefs around the island. The blue ones are in Dominican Republic. The orange ones are in the Republic of Haiti next to us. There's a line, a borderline, right, where it says La Española in the middle there. So we've been monitoring the reefs for a long time. Actually, Reef Check Dominican Republic was born about 20 years ago. And we've been implementing the Reef Check protocol, which is a protocol that was created mainly for the dive industry to collect data on coral reef health in their areas, basically. After that, we have been involved in more regional efforts, like the Global Coral Reef Monitoring Network. In 2014, there was a Caribbean-wide
Mm.
study published by Jeremy Jackson. After that, we started monitoring the reef every 2 years in Dominican Republic, in the blue areas, and also
Yeah.
in the orange in Haiti. We
So,
have produced.
Dr. Ruben, sorry to interrupt, because the slide is not changing. Is it possible to put it in presentation mode? There you go. Okay,
Yeah, let
thank
me
you.
try that. You see a map there?
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did it change now? Or it's still on the map?
Yeah. Study areas? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not changing. Okay, let's do it like that. Sorry about this.
No worries, it happens.
Basically, we have produced all these coral reef health reports, both from Dominican Republic and Haiti in 2015 all the way to 2022, and we're getting ready to monitor the reefs next year again. This is a national effort, but also, every so on we go here and there to monitor the reef. For example, in the Southwest, we have been monitoring the reef more closely every 2 months. Basically, we do a survey there. And we install, like I was saying, temperature measurement devices on the reef at 10-meter depth. And this is the graph that I was telling you about how temperature around September reached 32 degrees at 10 meters, which is unprecedented, at least for me. Locally, this is when bleaching was happening, like between September and November for the reefs in the Dominican Republic. I was able to do photomosaic using the 20-meter transect lines that the Reef Check protocol uses. I took pictures of that same permanent transect, these same permanent transects in July 2023, October, and again in February. So basically, before the bleaching, during the bleaching, and after the bleaching, just so we can see what happened to the corals there. And if we look at close-ups of the, put it bigger, in July, we can do an estimate of how many coral colonies were in the picture. In October, we had about 95% bleaching. The 95% of the corals there were white or were bleached. And by February 2024, we estimated that about 30% of those coral colonies were dead or were sick. Because if corals actually survive, if the temperature goes down, they can recapture the algae, and they can, but they are weak animals. So they usually, the ones that do recuperate, they do get sick. So that's the scenario that we have in the Dominican Republic. Also, talking about hurricanes, we have been able to document how wide devastations we have on the reef. For example, this is a picture taken on the northwest Dominican Republic, and we were able to go to that same spot because the photographer knows where he takes his pictures. And this is how it looked like a year after we had Hurricane Wilma in 2017 and 18 happen. Also, coral bleaching. We have seen, entire coral areas, from being this pretty to, especially starting to die a year later, and then a year later they would just crumble reef. And for the Dominican Republic and other tropical islands, this is devastating news, just because the reef, they grow parallel to the coastline, as you know it, and they help to protect the coast. Just because of reef degradation, sea level rise, and other impacts from bleaching, we're seeing now, a lot of beach erosion. As you know, or you don't know, the Dominican Republic lives a lot from beach tourism. So this is a very drastic scenario that we have now, these walls to put up on the beach to protect properties. And then we have nothing to offer to the tourists that come, about 10 million of them. And what is happening is that if you have healthy coastal marine ecosystems like reefs and mangroves, they do help to reduce the wave pressure, as you can see in these diminishing arrows, and then you get a prosperous coastal development. But if these coastal marine ecosystems degrade or die, then that arrow continues straight on to the shoreline and makes the development very vulnerable to coastal catastrophe. Work done by the Nature Conservancy in Mexico, in Cancun, and nearby Puerto Morelos, they were able to document that the reef crest reduced the wave height by 90% during Hurricane Wilma in 2017. And also that the loss of 1 meter of crest height increases the losses of hotels and basically insurance by fall by three. So just because this is important, now they have been trying to create a reef insurance, basically, because if there's a hurricane and then the reef is dead, then the insurance has to pay more. So insurance companies have been getting involved in coral restoration just because the reef protects and reduces the losses. And what is happening right now is that we're starting a 2024 year higher in sea surface temperature than the 30 years before, which is the lighter red line that you see in the graph. And this is just devastating news, just because we saw what happened last year just because of higher ocean temperatures. And now we're seeing 2024 starting hotter than ever, than every other year. And we actually had, Dominican Republic was very lucky, but now, probably in the next few hours, Jamaica is going to get hit by a Category 5 or maybe 4 hurricane as we speak. We just had this hurricane Beryl pass by the south of the Dominican Republic that you see where the arrow is. And but now it's heading straight to Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and then the Yucatan Peninsula. This is the highest, or the first Category 5, the newest. I mean, the earlier in the season, Category 5. These Category 4 or 5 hurricanes usually happen around August, September, in the peak of the hurricane season. And the first hurricane we get in this season is a Category 4 and 5 Beryl, which is unprecedented. Also, for coral bleaching, with the sea surface temperature anomalies, this is from last May. We're seeing that the water is way too hot than previous year, and this brings the probability to coral bleaching around June, September, to worse cases, worse levels than the previous year. And this is predicted by over 60% of the models. So what can we do? Especially apply best practices for tourism and fishing. Sorry that I misspelled that. Effective MPA protection and effective fishing regulations. And I say effective because you can have declared MPAs, but if they're not enforced, then you're not doing much about it. The same with fishing regulations. It happens frequently in my country that we have many regulations, but they're not enforced. and then promotion of best practices like the Greenfins program uh, throughout the islands in the Dominican Republic and the rest of the Caribbean. Also, education and awareness, we're trying to influence the national curricula in the Dominican Republic and other islands in the Caribbean to make this information available since kids are very young. Also, perhaps protect the coastline. We know that coral restoration is happening, but it's a very slow space, and all this coastal development in tropical countries, they need protection now, basically. Also, promote the preservation of natural sand dunes, native vegetation as a beach control measure. So this is about what I had to offer you today, and I'm gonna leave my contact information on the screen very briefly, in case you have any questions in the future, or I think we have a session questions in at the end of this. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ruben, for that very insightful presentation. And I'm learning so much here. Like, thank you so much for sharing your observations in the reef of in the Dominican Republic. And it is devastating to see the reef from being very healthy, bleached, and gone in a span of a year. And also interesting to hear that insurance companies are taking interest. If you have any questions for Dr. Ruben, please drop them in the comments below and we will get to them in our Q&A session. Thank you, Dr. Ruben, and I'm going to see you in a bit. Now, let's hear from our second speaker, who will be diving deeper into marine conservation in Southeast Asian waters. Alvin Chelia is the Chief Program Officer at Reef Check Malaysia and has worked at the institution for an impressive of 13 years. He is a marine scientist by training, having earned a master's degree focused in marine sciences from National University of Malaysia, skilled in biodiversity, environmental awareness and education, marine biology, and conservation issues. His focus has mainly been working with local communities on the ground, building capacity for co management and community led conservation efforts. Alvin has been diving since he was in high school and told us he prefers spending time underwater than on land. As being a skilled diver, of course, he is a Reef Check course director and scuba instructor. First trained to be a greenfins assessor in 2014, Alvin has successfully championed the initiative in Malaysia and is a qualified greenfins assessor trainer. Hello, Alvin. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Hi everyone. Hope you all can hear me clearly. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, I hope everybody can see this. Yep. All right. So I'll just start. Yeah. So thank you, firstly, to Reef World for inviting me to share a little bit about the bleaching monitoring that we're doing here in Malaysia. And I also thank all of you all for tuning in this evening. And to all of you who are tuning in from Malaysia, selamat petang. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the status of coral bleaching in Malaysia right now, current efforts and methodologies that we are using, and what's next. Yeah, how are we getting the people involved? So this is what it's looking like currently. We know in some locations, for example, in Terengganu, which is the northern part of the east coast of Peninsular Malaysia, we are seeing up to 80% of the population of the reef bleached. Now, surprisingly, along that same coastline, but down south, closer to the tip of the peninsula, we are seeing only about 20% of the reefs bleached in that area, in Johor. But also, what we are seeing in Terengganu, the colony, like the corals that are bleached, we are seeing up to 90% of the colonies bleached. Whereas in Johor, we're seeing about 60% bleached. So it's different. In different places, we're seeing different things. Surprisingly, across the South China Sea, in Mabul, we're seeing only about less than 10%, less than 5% of the reef population bleaching. However, the reefs, the corals that are bleaching, their colonies are bleached up to about 90%. So a lot of different information coming from different parts around the country. Now, how are we doing this monitoring? So basically, we are using very simple methods to track this bleaching. Now, what we've done is we're using the reef check method, but we've modified it a little bit. So firstly, one monitoring method is the PIT substrate survey, which is basically a point intercept transect. Now, for this method, you actually have to have some equipment with you, because what we're doing is we're laying down a 100-meter transect tape and recording corals in 4 different segments of 20 meters. Yeah, basically we've got a plumb line, which is a weighted string, and we swim along the transect tape, recording every 50 centimeters what lies under that tape. Yeah, so it's quite detailed and gives you a rather good idea of what's happening on the reef. This is the slates we use to record the data. So it shows you, the different points which we are recording information. Now, the second thing we're doing is basically doing a modified reef check impact survey. And for this, we are looking at a slightly wider area. So the same transect line is needed, but what we're doing now is we are also looking at an area the width of 5 meters. So we usually have 2 divers, one on the left and one on the right hand side of the transect tape, swimming along, recording the percent of the population that is bleached, and within that corals that are bleached, how many percent of those colonies are actually bleached. Yeah, so 2 different informations we're collecting from these impact surveys. This is what it looks like. So the thick green line is your transect tape, and then you've got a diver swimming zigzag in an area of 2.5 meters on the left and another diver 2.5 meters on the right. So basically just covering a larger area to get a more broader picture of what's going on the reef. So these are two, how earlier I mentioned the population and the colony. This is what we mean. These photos help explain that. So what you're seeing on the left-hand side is your population, and what you're seeing on the right-hand side is the colony. Now, why is this important? Well, it tells us how badly a reef is impacted by the current bleaching event, but the colony information also tells us how widely into the bleaching event are we in. Because if corals are just slightly bleached, like say the 5-10% of the tips, then we're not too worried, compared to when we start seeing about 80%, yeah, of the colonies being bleached. Then okay, it's a bit more worrying to us. So this different information, it helps us make informed decisions on what we're going to do next. Yeah. Now, the third way we do the monitoring is, this is the slate we use, where this is what it looks like when we are recording the percent of the population and the colony. Now, the third method that we use is a photo quadrat. So this is something that's, again, very simple to do. These quadrats are made using PVC pipes, very basic, and we have mainly been doing them on permanent transects. So we have marked these transects with stakes. So this is an example. The red line going across from left to right is your transect tape. We've marked certain areas where we put these quadrats in the exact same place and take photos of these corals over a period of time. Now, similarly, like what Dr. Ruben mentioned earlier, we knew that this bleaching was going to happen because we were tracking the warnings from the NOAA satellites. And we started doing these monitorings in November last year. Now, that is very, very unusual, because actually for Peninsular Malaysia, especially like on Tioman Island where I'm based on, November, December, January, February is our monsoon season. It's our wettest season. Most dive shops are even shut for this period of time, and the water is normally very cold. But we actually started seeing some bleaching early November, and that's why we straight away started doing these monitorings. This is an example of a photo that you would get, and the other one is an example of a diver trying to take the photo. Yeah. Now, like I said, the reason for us collecting this information is mainly to help managers, marine park managers, government agencies make informed decisions. Earlier, like you would have seen when Dr. Ruben was presenting, in 2010, Malaysia was badly impacted by the bleaching event. And one of the sad things is there was a lot of misinformation, miscommunication, and there was a lot of chaos. People were running around like, oh, the reefs are bleaching, the reefs are bleaching. But it wasn't very clear on what to do. So it caused a bit of unnecessary panic. Then there was talks of closing the islands, which again caused a lot of panic because it meant like a lot of people would be out of jobs if they closed those islands to tourists. So we wanted to avoid this from happening. And what we did was we came up with a communications plan, basically a bleaching response plan in 2012. This plan was then later updated in 2022. But basically, it tells us what to communicate and how to communicate based on the different levels of bleaching that we notice. Yeah. And similarly, this year, when we started recording these bleachings, we started putting informations out on our social media, telling people like, hey, we're seeing some bleaching, and again, this was targeted to dive operators, but we were also targeting divers, people, your everyday divers, because if you think about it, for a country like Malaysia, we have very few marine scientists out there that are able to go out and check these reefs. But the number of dive shops and divers we have in Malaysia is so plentiful. Yeah. And again, the other NGOs that are out there, and we wanted to get as many people involved in the monitoring and the reporting to us. So this was a big thing. And it worked. Yeah. So we got a lot of different people. I saw earlier people like who are tuning in, like Robin from Track in Pom Pom Island in Sabah, where we don't have anyone close by. They were doing surveys and giving us information, where people from dive shops, Greenfin members from Perhentian, from Redang, from Tenggol, again, locations, some of these locations, we don't have permanent staff. And everyone was sending us this information, and it helped us tell them, guide them in reaction, for example, to do crown of thorn cleanups, like I showed in this earlier picture, because what we want to do is help reduce the stress to these reefs that are being impacted. So we said, okay, we're starting to see about 30% bleaching. Guys, can you go out and do predator removals? So start to look. If you're seeing lots of crown of thorns in an area, if you start to see lots of drupellas, time to react. And then when we started getting reports of more than 50%, and then we started putting out information in the press, telling people like, hey, it's time to start thinking about possible site closures. Can you guys go out, look at more sites, give us information? And when it started hitting 80%, we started telling dive shops, hey, would you consider not diving and not visiting our most resilient reefs and the most impacted reefs? Maybe give them a little bit of rest, help them recover better, and give them a fighting chance. So basically, this is why for us, the monitoring information has been very important. This is why getting the public involved has been very important. Getting dive shops involved has been very important. It's all about being able to get a very clear picture of what's going on, and then making informed decisions to best protect the reefs that we have. Um, yeah, and this was an example. And again, like I said, this is just something we are encouraging people to do voluntarily, reaching out, communicating, telling them this is the sites we think you should avoid. And so far what we've seen is the reception has been pretty good, pretty supportive. um, And even most recently, like the government has also come up with some guidelines saying, okay guys, maybe it's time to give a break to any kind of work that you would do underwater, like stop doing reef rehabilitation, stop moving corals around for any kind of project like that. Just let's give everything a time to relax, calm down, and recover. So I'll stop here, but basically this is what we've been doing, and this is what we're trying to get um, more people involved in. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alvin, for that very informative presentation and very concise as well. And sharing your methodologies and efforts in coral bleaching monitoring. I haven't done any bleaching monitoring in my career yet, but I'm keen to do it. But coral bleaching monitoring is very extensive, and tracking predictions is very important as well to keep an eye out. I also appreciate your emphasis on communicating the right message is also incredibly important. So communications in science, where do we find the right balance? So if you have questions for Alvin, drop them in the comments box below. And I know, Robin, you said hi. Robin said hi. So thank you so much, Alvin, and we will see you in a bit in our Q&A session. I know we're all eager to ask questions, but before we dive into our panel discussion, I'm excited to introduce our moderator for today, one of my colleagues, the Reef Roll Foundation's Program Officer for Operations, Emma Levy.
Oh, hi,
Hi.
Erin. Hello. Hi, hi.
Hi, Emma. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. It's really inspiring me to take action, actually, learning all of this news.
Me too. And I'm geeking out on how to learn about these methodologies and really seeing on the ground, on the ground, in the waters on what they're doing. So, should we dive into it? Shall we invite Dr. Ruben and Alvin again on the screen?
Let's do it.
There you go. Hello again, Dr. Ruben and Alvin.
Hi.
Actually, I wish we had more time. I would like to learn more, but I'm definitely reaching out after this. I know our audience is eager to hear from you. So we just have a couple of questions. Um, Also, for our viewers right there who has questions, drop them in the Q&A. After the 10-minute panel discussion, we will have 5 minutes to answer the questions from the audience. So first off, this is for Dr. Ruben. One of the questions that we really get is what social impacts from declining coral reef health have you experienced or you can foresee?
Well, I've been looking at reefs in the Dominican Republic and the Caribbean for a bit over 20 years now. And the reefs back then were already bad. And I say that because, talking to older scientists, they told me that they saw reefs in the Caribbean in very good health back in the 50s and 60s. So I was in the water when it was already degraded state. And it was mostly because of local impacts. I didn't see the black sea urchin mortality, and I didn't see the palmata, the acropora disease. Back in the 70s. Also, I didn't see that. So, but I was seeing, a lot of coastal pollution from
Mm,
development happening. Dominican Republic is a very touristy island, and also from fishing. As I said in my presentation, we had many regulations for fishing, but they're not drastically enforced or efficiently enforced, I may say. So I kept, and we had I guess the critic of saying, well, you're measuring the health of an ecosystem that is dying. But like you were saying earlier, these monitoring data serve to take informed decisions. We are able to feed
Mm,
this information to managers, to marine park managers, and to Minister of Environment, so they can take action. To create better enforcement, better regulations for this to happen. And then and all this was already creating those social impacts and socioeconomical impacts. For example, in our beaches, I was able to experience myself, going to a beach town and ask for, fried fish, and they would feed me tilapia. And that meant that, all the, not all, but most of the marine fish were already gone. So this is very sad news for living in
mm,
a tropical island, that you cannot eat a fish from the ocean. You
mm,
have to rely on aquaculture,
yeah.
like it happened with agriculture. That if we want to eat chicken, we have to raise the chicken and the cow and all the vegetables. So human population has increased so much that we're not, the planet is not able to feed ourselves anymore. So this very big social impact that we have seen, and now with climate change happening, just I don't want to say that it's all bad news, because what I always say is that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So all these corals that are surviving coral bleaching are very, very strong individuals that will that are actually better adapted to the current conditions. So we'll see what
Mm,
happens. Corals have been here for millions of years, and humans only a little time.
mm,
So we'll see what happens with corals. I'm very hopeful, aside from all this bad news.
yeah. I think hope what keeps us alive. No, but the phrase that keeps on going in my mind is healthy reefs is equals to healthy businesses. So that's what we have to keep in mind. Thank you, Dr. Ruben.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And it's interesting seeing like going to a coastal place and then being able to get a freshwater fish.
Mm,
That's seeing it in the day to day as well. Alvin, I wanted to ask you a question next, please. So we've got a lot of dive professionals that are tuned in that kind of want to be able to take action from what they're learning about today. So, what can you advise for dive professionals or dive centres to do to get involved in monitoring the reefs? And can you recommend any specific tips or tricks for being careful and conscious divers in the water whilst you monitor?
Yeah. So I think the big thing is making it part of, like, okay, I'll start again. Sorry. So I'll say yes. We always want dive centers to get involved, and it's not difficult, right? The tricky part is finding the time to do it properly. So if you want to talk about the different methods out there, yes, there are many. A very simple one would be something like Coral Watch, for example, which any diver can really do without much training. Yeah. Now, the Reef Check survey is also another method that was specifically made for non-scientists. So you can always get in touch, with a Reef Check coordinator office close to you and get that kind of a training. But if nothing else, I would say making a quadrat is very easy. Everyone has access to some PVC pipes at your nearest hardware shop. Taking a photo using the quadrat, again, very easy. You are right. We are working very close to the reef, so you must be mindful. You must be careful of your buoyancy, of your equipment, things like that. But again, if you're a professional working at a dive center, this shouldn't be a problem. Yeah. Now, I would suggest, I would, really encourage anyone who wants to start, doesn't know where to start. You can check out Coral Watch, but also, if not, just start with taking these photos. Make a quadrat for yourself and take regular photos. Go out. It can be your house reef. If you're a PADI dive center and you've got adapted a reef, you can do it at your adapted reef, right? Just take regular photos, monthly basis. If you see a bleaching start, do more regular photos, because then sharing that with your reef manager or your local government agency would already be very helpful. That would be something that they do not have. So, for example, like with us, when some of the dive centers were sending in information, and then we were asking them, how many percent of the reef is bleached, how many percent of the colony, and they weren't sure. They're like, but hey, here's a photo I took, here's a video I took. And even that was something useful because we were not there. So they can start very easily just by taking pictures and sending those in, if nothing else.
Thank you, Alvin. That's really insightful. And I hope that everyone listening gets really inspired by that. There's a lot of different ways that you can get involved, and definitely scientists around the world really need your input and your data to get involved. I know we talked about Coral Watch and Reef Check, and actually that leads me to my next question for Ruben. Um, I know that you're both experts in Reef Check, but can you talk more about other monitoring options aside from Reef Check? I know there's some people tuning in that are in different locations where it's not available.
Yeah, actually, and I wanted to add what Alvin was saying that divers regularly use a dive computer, and you can record temperature, for example, and just feed it to the local NGO or NOAA or anything like that, and also support local NGOs and local scientists. If you are a dive center, maybe you're too busy and you cannot do these protocols on your own. But if you have a spot or two in your boat, just invite the local NGO, local scientists along, for them to be able to be in the water. But and that's an important message. If you're not able to conduct this monitoring yourself, just support local NGOs and scientists. I have to always say that it's very expensive for us to go out on the reefs, and dive centers are critical in being the first eyes on the water. So uh, methods are many out there, and I want to say, I guess the simplest possible is best, because it's cheapest, it's fastest, and you can always feed any information that is possible to local managers. I was in back in the 2014-15. I was part of a regional effort, and we basically sat down, and Jeremy Jackson, when he wrote that Caribbean Wide report, he found out that the biggest problem was the diversity of methods out there. So that's what we're saying. The simplest you can is the best, because then it could be comparable to the rest of the world.
Thank you, Ruben. Thank you very much. And I love the idea of inviting local government to join a dive boat, or just, keeping a couple of spaces free for a dive trip. That's really, really handy. Thank you.
Yeah, agree on that. And if they experience it firsthand, then get they'll get it what you're trying to say. So the last question for this panel discussion goes to Alvin. Being with Reef Check Malaysia for the past 13 years, can you share success stories about the impact of coral bleaching monitoring?
Okay, so I only joined Reef Check in 2011 after the big 2010 bleaching. And then Malaysia actually didn't get hit all that bad during the 2016 bleaching. Yeah, surprisingly, we missed that one, thankfully, I guess. But what I will say is monitoring data has been very, very vital, I would say, to make informed decisions. And again, I know I said that earlier as well, but it's a very important point which I think often gets overlooked. And we work closely with reef managers, so the Department of Fisheries, Sabah Parks, Sarawak State Government, the different government agencies. And again, very often they have limited resources on the ground. But when you've got solid monitoring data, and again, we monitor around 300 sites around the country on an annual, these are permanent sites annually, whether it's bleaching or not. This kind of information, it lets them know exactly the situation on the ground. And like I saw today, earlier, that we have somebody from the Department of Fisheries Malaysia who had tuned in earlier. So even if they aren't able to go out and check for themselves, they know, right, this is the situation. So these are what we are dealing with. This is what we are working with. And the success stories from that is us seeing, for example, new MPAs being made because we've highlighted degradation in certain places. We've also seen, you know, quicker feedback, quicker reaction from those in power because the information is already available. so that they then don't have to go out and do those surveys and collect the data again. Um, and I would say it has even gone as far as to promote sustainable tourism, for example, with unsustainable development. But when you can show them, like, look, this is the current situation of the reefs in that area, this is how it's been over the years. If we did this development, this is what we stand to lose. It has influenced decisions, you know. So I would say that is the vital role, and these are some of the examples of the positive reactions we have seen from monitoring data.
Amazing, and it's really inspiring to hear these success stories that we know that there is change happening, and this change could impact future years to come. So we have a lot of questions from the live chat, and I wish we could cater all of them, but I think we have our first question. Emma, would you like to take it away?
Yes, so we've had someone tuning in asking how to introduce interest in learning about the underwater environment, especially for their customers, so for divers and snorkelers. So, how would you recommend that they get the interest from their customers and start teaching them? So, sorry, I didn't say who it was for. Alvin, please.
I would say debriefs are very important. Just as how a briefing before a dive is important, a debrief is very important because that's where you're going to talk to them about what they see. And when I started diving, this was something we often did very communally. Like after a dive, we would sit around a table, get the books out, look for the fish, talk about it, try to find the fish we saw, and discuss it nicely. But these days, it seems like everybody's just interested in the photo. Hey, did you get a photo of me? Oh, can you share that? Share that. Send it to me. I'll airdrop it to you. You know, the conversations have kind of changed to the nicest
Mm.
picture for Instagram compared to what did we actually see? What was that down there? Because when you talk to your customers about this, it gains interest. When they try to find for it, that joy, you see them being able to identify that fish, and then realize, oh, that nudie branch which they've never seen anywhere else. Yeah, for me, that's how I've been able to do it, talking to my students about what they just saw and explaining to them why that was such a amazing find on that dive. Yeah.
I love that. I love that very much because as soon as people understand what something is, they want to protect it. That's just the way that human nature is, right? Great. Erin,
Yeah.
over to you.
Actually, we have this is for Dr. Ruben from Maria Teresa. Have you done any studies on bleaching at different depths? Are deep reefs more protected from bleaching?
Yeah, well, that's what you would think, that deeper waters will get cooler waters, but the temperature data that I was getting when I looked into very detailed, as the temperature measurement is taken every 10 minutes. I was wanting to see which part of the day was the hottest, and it was actually at midnight. So it was slightly increased, but the hottest part of that trend was at midnight. So it doesn't really necessarily say, ocean currents go here and there, and they can bring hotter temperatures to deeper reefs as well. So it's not necessarily true that if deeper corals will not bleach. Actually, they may not be better adapted to hotter conditions just because they're
Mm.
in deeper environments. So and I know that a lot of scientists are trying to move corals here and there to deeper water, to aquarium, and I don't want to sound uh, sarcastic or bad, but like I was saying earlier, these are current processes that are affecting nature, and not only corals, and whoever cannot be adapted to these conditions, shall not live. I will say, we need stronger individuals out there who cannot survive these newer temperatures. It's not going to do anything for the future. So we need to let nature take its course. I know we are causing this, the only one species is causing this, But if we want to have coral reefs in the future, we need to let nature take its course. Whoever's going to die should die, so we can only have better adapter corals out there in the reef. That's very sad to say, and that's very
Mm,
hard to experience. But that's nature. We can
mm,
not spend that much money moving corals here and there trying to save them just because the next summer might be hotter. So and then we lose all that effort, all that money. So let's nature take our course. We are part of nature. We're a very bad part of nature, but we are part of nature. So our planning is and all the living animals and plants in it need to be adapted to current conditions.
yes, thank you, Dr. Ruben. And as they say, we have to adapt to change. That's the best way that we can move forward. Emma, I think we can only cater two more because we're running out of time.
There's so many good questions coming in,
Yeah.
but I'll try and squeeze them in.
Mm.
So, Alvin, I've got another question for you. Somebody listening in was really intrigued by your sort of different levels of warnings for the dive centres, depending on how serious the bleaching was, and especially wanted to know how the dive operators responded to site closures. What was the sort of, how did that go?
Yes, so the different levels of warning that was intentionally done to avoid confusion and panic, and so when it came to the point of saying, "Hey guys, I think we should avoid these sites," they were already kind of aware of the situation of how it has been getting worse day by day, you know, and honestly, it was very positive. We were worried as well because we were, some of those sites are big dive sites, and we were thinking like people would say no, but honestly everybody, like the majority of people said, yep, we should have done it even earlier. So
Mm.
yeah, yeah, so far it has been very, very positive. And again, you might not get everybody. There might be that odd boat that's still going to dive it, but it means the impact is still lesser than it would have been if we didn't talk about it and agree as a group to do it. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, really interesting to hear. And as soon as people are told that it can help the long-term solution, then the short-term hopefully doesn't seem so bad. But yeah,
Mm.
thank you for that. That's really interesting.
Thank you, Alvin. And for our last question for tonight, how fast can corals recover from bleaching? From Noor Sabrina. Dr. Ruben?
Yes, actually, bleaching is a gradual process. As water gets hot, corals start to bleach, and it could take a few weeks for corals to bleach, and that's how bleaching forecasting works. That we would forecast how many weeks does the water will remain above certain temperature, and that's how when bleaching happens. The same for the reverse. When the water starts to cool down, it has to be. It could take weeks or maybe a couple of months for the algae to come back into the coral's tissue and for them to recover. And I said in my presentation, these bleach corals, if they recover, they are weak animals as they have been basically starving for weeks or months, so they
Mm.
usually get sick after a bleaching event. So we will see a lot of coral disease after a major bleaching event like this. And then again, whoever survive, is the winner basically for next year.
And hopefully there will be a lot of winners for next year. Unfortunately, due to time restrictions, we can only cater 4 questions. But if we can't reply it live, we will try to reply in the comments later. Um, we have reached the end of our insightful discussion. So big thanks to Dr. Ruben and Alvin for being with us today. Appreciate both of you. And we would like to thank you for your knowledge and insights and diverse perspectives you have provided us tonight. Also, we appreciate the time and effort you have in dedicating this webinar, and thank you for inspiring us all of the viewers to take action. And of course, Emma, thank you for moderating this discussion. It's lovely to have a fellow Reef Road here. Um, any final thoughts, everyone? One word, one sentence. Should we start from Alvin?
I would say there's hope. Don't be too scared. It's not all doom and gloom. Yeah.
I love that. Dr. Ruben?
And also, stay going to the water, stay visiting reefs, get new people to visit the reef to learn scuba dive safely, and then, report and support local NGOs and government entities in all this global crisis.
Thank you. How about you, Emma?
I guess I'd say that we've covered quite serious topics today, but it's all inspiring us to take action, teach our customers, go and visit incredible coral sites and protect them as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma, Dr. Ruben, and Alvin for joining us today. So, see you in a bit. So, now, where do we go from here? You might be wondering what you can do as an individual tourist or a diving business if you're tuning in. Beyond bleaching, coral bleaching monitoring, or if it's not available to you, what can you do? For what we have learned in our sessions today, our reefs need us more than ever, and we need to take action to protect them as best as we can. This can often be done by making a small but incredibly important changes to your business or on your next dive trip. So as a tourist, you can actually make a difference with by diving with sustainable operators and being mindful with the chemicals that can harm marine life, such as toxic sunscreens or chemical equipment cleaners. If you're not sure who you want to dive with, then choose a Greenfins member. You can see all of the list in our website. For diving businesses who are tuning in, you have a unique advantage of being in the water every day with your eyes on the reef. You know the reef every day, you know your reef. So take the plunge and get involved with coral monitoring programs such as Reef Check. But if it is also equally important, though, to manage local scale threats from your operations. We emphasize this: be aware in chemicals you use in your operation, dispose them responsibly, and make sure to have eco friendly policies in place. We also have available resources such as what you can see on the screen. This is free and can be downloaded on our website, but you can also take a step further by becoming a Green Fins member and following the guidelines. You can significantly reduce your local stressors through your business. You have the power to change your business. One of the benefits of being a Green Fins member is having the access to the Green Fins Hub, where you can have a wide range or access to a wide range of resources, create a sustainable action plan for your operators, and have the exclusive access to the Greenfins Community Forum. So, actually, through the Community Forum, we were able to connect members from all over the world to talk about this critical issue. We, the reason why we have this webinar because coral bleaching monitoring and bleaching report is widely talked about in the community as of the moment. Members of Members from the Maldives, UAE, and the Caribbean and beyond are sharing their bleaching observations and insights within the community forum, and you can too. The materials you see on the screen, actually, the chemical disposal and the toxic sunscreen materials, were developed through the insights of our members in the community forum. Members are regularly exchanging information about their challenges and creating a robust support system for sustainable diving operations. So we can keep our eyes on the reef as a community by thinking globally while acting locally. There is an urgent need, of course, to protect these ecosystems, and they surpass geographical and political barriers as we all depend on it. So if you're interested to be a Greenfence member, stay at the end of the webinar to know more. And we have very exciting news to announce. The Referral Foundation is releasing a global bleaching response toolkit in a few weeks. This toolkit aims to provide dive centers with a comprehensive understanding of global bleaching events and guide them how they can participate in monitoring with the tools that we currently is available and protecting our reefs during these critical times. So stay tuned for our release by following us on social media and visiting our website. And if you're interested, type in the comments that you're interested to have this toolkit. Another one, due to the high demand of our Greenfins members, we are excited to announce that Greenfins Dive Guide and our Diver e-course is now available to bulk buy. So guidance on how to bulk buy these courses is now available on our website. For those who doesn't know, the Greenfins Dive Guide e-course is the only environmentally accredited course available for dive professionals to learn the best environmental practices. And the Greenfins Diver e-course is specially designed for recreational divers to help protect coral reefs by learning how to conduct more environmentally friendly dives. So this course was developed by the Reef World with the support of the United Nations Environment Program. The course only costs $25, and all proceeds goes to supporting the vital work in protecting the marine environment. Scholarships are available too, and we encourage those who can afford to apply for scholarship. So just go to the link on the screen. So before we come to an end, Greenfins is now available anytime and anywhere actually. And if you would like to get involved, join the 300 plus active members across the globe doing significant change now. So to sign up as a Greenfins member, you can go to greenfins.net/join and more information at the end of this webinar. So we have come to the end, and we want to take a moment to express our deep thanks and heartfelt appreciation for everyone who is tuning in today. So to keep updated with Reef Check Malaysia and Dominican Republic's efforts, you can follow them in their socials at Reef Check Malaysia and at Reef Check DR on Instagram. And to follow our work, you can go to Reef World's and Greenfin's Instagram pages. Or you can send us an email at info@greenfins.com. So for dive businesses who are tuning in, I'll be waiting for your emails. So thank you for being with us today. And again, I'm Erin, and I'm leaving you with a short video on how to make an impactful change by joining Greenfins.
Green Fins is the world's first independent certificate to stop the environmental impact from marine-based tourism. Implemented by the Reef World Foundation in partnership with the UN Environment Programme, predominantly through its membership, which is available globally. Tourists are demanding more sustainable options. They are willing to pay more for operations that are aligned to their values on sustainability and preservation of our wonderful ocean ecosystems. They want to learn more about the environment and how to be involved in meaningful conservation. They want to book sustainable holidays with confidence. Greenfins provides the only internationally recognized environmental standards for the diving and snorkeling activities. Start your sustainability journey with Greenfins in these simple steps. For certified membership, sign up on the Greenfins Hub. Receive in-person assessment. Consult and review your sustainable action plan with Greenfins assessors. Track your progress. Participate in the Greenfins Community Forum. For digital membership, sign up on the Greenfins Hub. Complete self-evaluation. Build your sustainable action plan, which is tailored to you and your operation, achievable, practical, and cost-effective. Track your progress. Participate in the Greenfins Community Forum. What do you get as a member? Guidance to achieve your sustainability goals. Endorsement from UNEP, Reef World, and other partners. Support from the Greenfins global community. Promotion on the Greenfins website and partner booking platforms. Access to new customers. And many more. With Green Fins, you will embrace and enjoy the benefits of adopting ocean-conscious business practices, sustaining both your business and ocean health. Sign up today